This isn't a match pair of Pathe baby projectors or home movie projectors with a capacity for showing the cassette films 30 feet and 60 feet, and also the larger reels with these extension pieces, and electric motor driven, but they're pretty similar. I bought them together a couple of years ago, date from the 1920s, for 9.5mm film. So we'll have a look one of these days soon. We'll have a look inside and see what condition the mechanism's in. Usually it's extremely good, except that the cast metal shutter is frequently distorted or damaged or sometimes even missing. So we'll see. So that's the Pathescope home movie projector from the 1920s that uses the clever notched title device, which I'll be demonstrating. This one isn't in great condition externally, as you can see. It's obviously been in the damp at some period, possibly for a very long time. So the paint has suffered. And there's a fair bit of rust. But it's fairly superficial. What I'm intending to do is clean this up. It's still got all the dirt and dust from when I bought it a couple of years ago. So I'll clean it up and just see if I can get the mechanism moving. It's absolutely solid. I'm pretty sure I know why, and that's what we're going to address next. I'm going to unscrew this thumb screw so that we can take off both the top extension arm and the whole of the dome top, so that we can then see what's going on and what's jamming the mechanism. And I suspect it will be the shutter. I can already see that the shutter is frozen, solid. So this is the shutter, and it's not moving, which is no surprise. Common problem with this model. Okay, now we have to remove these two nuts at the front. So this is the culprit, and what's happened is it's binding on the main casting, because this shutter is made from a very poor alloy that disintegrates. First thing it does is to expand and become irregular. Now, if I can take this off, you might think, well, I could turn that down, but in fact as soon as you start to try to do that, from experience, I can tell you that it will just shutter. It's possible to file it, and generally a good idea to apply some epoxy to the inside as well to hold the whole thing together in case it does start to crack up. I can see there's possibly a crack appearing here. Another one here. So it's fragile. It may well disintegrate. They often do as you try to take them apart. We'll see. There's another pair of nuts that hold this front plate on. I've just loosened those off. So can now take those off. Let's see whether this one come off. Here we go. Yes. And it's not the worst I've seen by far. It's definitely not the worst I've seen. But it is binding. Now, if when I try to file it, it shatters, the important thing is to keep the centrepiece, if possible, because it's then much easier to make a replacement aluminium shutter. This is heavy and acts as a flywheel as well as a shutter, but if it's being motorised, that's really, the flywheel effect isn't so important as when it's being hand cranked. And I have made replacement shutters before. These two retaining screws, the heads are partially cut away and they lock onto little protrusions in the casting. So when you're screwing the nut on from this side, the bolt stays still. You don't have to get a screwdriver or a spanner on the other side. So that's a nice touch. So the outer rim is painted black, so as I file it, I'll be able to see where I filed and where I haven't. Well, as you can see, there are some definite high spots and low spots, partly because it was originally quite a rough casting, and that's been accentuated by the distortion that's happened over the years. So I think I'll try that now, and it could be that we need to take a good bit more off, but let's see whether that will fit without snagging. Well, that's the shutter back on, and it is sort of turning, but it's still fouling. See there? But we're about halfway there, I think. So, need to take a bit more off now. Well, this has been on and off 2 or 3 times now. It's still binding, and you can see, I think you can see, that there's a crack there. It's starting to become apparent, so it's going to be weak there. There probably are some others. What I'm going to do now is black this with some, or blue it as an engineer would say, with a black permanent pen, so I can see again when I've removed the blue ink. Try and keep it regular all the way around. I suspect it will suddenly shatter, but we'll find out. Okay, well that's now blued. Time for some more filing. Okay, well a fair bit of filing later, and it's still scraping. Getting there. But what I'm proposing to do now is to take a fraction off, to file a fraction off of the supports here on the inside. Just enough to get that to clear. Because if I keep taking material off the shutter, it's going to shatter. You can see that crack there, and that's not going to get any better. I might actually put some epoxy in there. So that's the next plan, just a fraction off of here on the inside. It won't take much, and that should then turn more happily. And then I've got to synchronise the shutter with the claw pull down and get the big blade, that one, to synchronise with the actual pull down, and these 2 smaller blades, the non-flick blades, will then also be in the right place. I've removed the reflector unit, and I've taken out the original bulb which was in there, and fitted up this very simple grip table lamp with an LED unit as a potential alternative light source. We won't be using the original bulb. I don't really want to put a halogen lamp in there as they're very hot, and I want to use this with the notch title device which stops the film, so it's important that the light source is not too hot, and it does actually give a pretty good light spread. And once we get a full blackout, we'll see what that looks like, but it's certainly encouraging and very easy to set up. There's no adaptation to the original machine required, just literally just placing that in position, and this will hold it wherever we need it to be. So I'm very pleased with that idea. Obviously I've got the front section off here so I can see what's going on, but that looks promising, definitely. So this is the top section, and as we can now see, the lens is hidden inside there with a control knob for focusing. That's the objective lens. So from the outside of the machine we see this normally,
we don't see the lens. It's hidden way back beyond there. So when you see one of these machines for sale, it often looks like the lens is missing, but it's almost certainly there, it's inside.